Hey, how are you? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Drew, aka Booty Sweat, and we are continuing on today with our Mortal Kombat 11 Masterclass. And today we're going to be talking about neutral. What is neutral? How to play neutral in Mortal Kombat 11, etc. So if that is going to be helpful to you, make sure you stick around. Also, make sure you like and subscribe and check out the rest of the tutorials if you haven't already. A playlist will be linked below. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so first thing is first, what is neutral? What does neutral mean? So it's pretty self-explanatory, honestly, but basically in fighting games you have offense, defense, and neutral. So if offense is when you're playing offense, applying pressure, getting combos, whatever, and defense is when you're blocking or trying to zone or whatever it is to keep your opponent's pressure off of you, then neutral is neither. So basically neutral then is this. It's what you're seeing right now. It's when neither opponent is on the offensive or defensive, and instead you're both trying to fill each other out. You're both trying to control your space. We'll talk a little bit about space control here in a minute, but this is the neutral, in other words. So basically the primary things that you need to understand about Mortal Kombat 11 in terms of neutral is, again, space control, which is going to lead into what's called whiff punishing, and the poking game. So in Mortal Kombat 11, you have all these pokes, right? You have down 1, down 3, and down 4. Depending on your character, you know which one of those is the most effective. For instance, Noob Saibot's down 4 is randomly good at anti-airing, whereas not everyone's is going to be that. So you kind of have to know for your character what the properties of your down pokes are. If you want more in-depth information about pokes and why they're useful, then check out the frame data guide that I have. I think it was 1 or 2 videos ago, I'm not sure. Just check out the playlist and there's a section about jailing, what jailing is and why jailing is important. And basically jailing has everything to do with down pokes. So another thing you want to keep in mind are your long range normals. So Noob Saibot, for example, this standing 1 is super stubby. It barely hits in front of him at all. So what are his long range, more space controlling normals? Well, his forward 2 is a good one. You see that hits from pretty far away actually, and his back 2 hits from pretty far away. So you kind of have these moves and you just kind of have to know what they are for your character. Baraka has several. His forward 2 is long range. His forward 4 is what's called an advancing normal. So advancing normals are moves like this where it actually physically moves you forward and can help you kind of not only control your space but invade your opponent's space a little bit. So the main thing you want to kind of keep in mind about neutral is, what is your space? How do you keep your opponent out of your space while simultaneously invading theirs, if that makes sense? So, and some characters don't want to invade their opponent's space. Some of them want to keep you as far away as possible for the whole match. So in terms of space control, that's one thing you need to keep in mind. So obviously if your attack is swinging anywhere that's in the range of that attack, it's unsafe for your opponent to be there unless they're blocking or ducking, right? If they're moving forward or if they're trying too late to throw out their own move, then they're going to get hit by your move because they're kind of entering the danger zone of your attack, right? And so that's a big part of it. Another thing is whiff punishing. So basically a big part of Mortal Kombat is whiff punishing. In fact, there's a lot of crushing blows and stuff that you get specifically for whiff punishing. Kano's back 3 is a good example. So what is a whiff punish? Well, you see, if I use this attack from all the way over here, it hits from pretty far away, right? But there it didn't quite hit. I was just out of range. And if you see in the bottom left, I have a recovery of 26 frames after that. That means for 26 frames, I can't do anything. I'm holding block as soon as I'm throwing that move out, but you see the delay there, right? So what that means is during that animation where I can't block yet, I'm open to getting hit. I can't do anything. So if I miss a move, in other words, if I whiff it, my opponent can punish it, hence the name whiff punish. So whiff punishes are a big deal, especially in Mortal Kombat where you can dash cancel, so you don't have to do a full backdash. You can do like a miniature backdash into a move like that. You know, you can interrupt your dash cancel. For more information on that, refer to my combos guide. But basically, you can bait your opponent into doing all kinds of stuff and just kind of back up or backdash out of the range of it, and then boom, you're whiff punishing them. So keep whiff punishing in mind. Now, an interesting thing about whiff punishing is you can actually whiff punish a lot of jumping attacks as well, because jump-in attacks are plus on block. So opponents are kind of conditioned to jumping in after a jump-in attack, they just start pressing buttons. So if they jump in and they're not in range, you can kind of guess that and just start hitting them with your buttons. And a lot of times, I mean, it's going to be your turn regardless if they whiff. So if they start pressing buttons like they're kind of conditioned to, then you'll get that whiff punish. So kind of practice around long range normals typically, especially ones that go into combos like forward 2 here. You know, you can go into all kinds of combos with Noob Saibot with that advancing normal string. So kind of see what those are. Baraka's is really good, his forward 4-4, because it actually crushing blows on a counter or punish. So, you know, you can kind of throw it out and it's pretty safe. So that's another thing. You don't want to be poking with moves that are punishable, right? You want to be poking with moves that are safe on block. You'll lose your turn probably unless it's plus something, but at the very least you won't get punished for it. And that's how you play neutral in Mortal Kombat 11. Control your space while trying to invade the opponent's space. Make sure you're not whiffing buttons. Okay, make sure you're in range. Go in practice mode, check out your moves, and see which ones will whiff at certain distances. That didn't hit. That does. I need to know that. That won't hit, but that won't either. That one will, okay? This won't hit, but this one will. Okay, I've practiced with Noob Saibot, so I kind of have a feel for that. So you'll need to do that. Now, another major thing that we really need to talk about in Mortal Kombat 11 in terms of neutral is movement. How do you move around the screen? How do you control your character? So of course it's a 2D fighting game, so you can only move frontward and backward, and you can jump and crouch, right? So you can neutral jump, you can back jump, you can forward jump. A mistake a lot of people make is they just jump to advance. That's the only way they know how to make the distance between themselves and the opponent. The problem is, even though jumping, especially jump 3s and jump 1s and stuff, they're plus on block, so they're really good. But if all you do is jump, there's a lot of characters, most of the characters in the game, have pretty easy time punishing people who just play jumping jacks all the time, right? So you don't want to just move around the screen by jumping. You see this a lot like in Street Fighter as well. Beginner players will just jump. This is how they move around. Kung Lao's in this game will do that a lot because he has a dive kick. So he can kind of get free pressure off of that, although it is super unsafe if you block it. But you don't want to just be jumping around, right? Jumping is fine at times. It's not like you never should jump. Jumping is great for pressure. But if you just jump around like this and that's how you move, then you're going to get anti-aired, and anti-airs lots of times lead into full combos, and you will really feel that pain. So what do you do instead? Well, there's dashes. And again, the cool thing about dashes is you can cancel them. So you don't have to do that full dash. You can cancel it midway through and go into an advancing normal, for instance. So try that out. Instead of, if you're at a distance like this, instead of just throwing this out when it's gonna whiff and you're gonna get punished, maybe try doing a little back or doing a little forward dash first, close a little bit of distance, so this doesn't hit, but this does, right? And so it's really hard to react to online especially, but you know, try to work in little dashes, back dashes as well. If your opponent is really button happy, if they love to do wake up options, which we'll talk about in a future video, if they love to do their wake up invincible options, then maybe give a little backdash and then whiff punish after they, you know, they miss their wake up attack. All kinds of stuff. So the main thing you want to keep in mind is you want to maintain that space, but you want to think about how you're moving around. Don't just jump like crazy. Don't go on autopilot. Think about what you're doing a little bit, and you'll get better and better at it, where you won't have to think as long and hard about it. That's what she said. But you will start to just kind of feel it after a while. But that takes experience. It takes a lot of playing to do that. So in the meantime, just watch your jumping, watch your spacing. And then I also want to teach you something. This is kind of an advanced technique, so you don't really need it if you're just starting out. But I want to talk about wave dashing real quick. So I give a quick rundown of what wave dashing is in my Rain variations guide because he has undoubtedly the best, one of, if not the best wave dashes in the game. And by wave dash, I'm not talking about his ability called wave dash. I'm talking about the universal mechanic that everyone can do. And that is basically when you dash, you end with block. And then you press forward and block and forward and block and forward and block and forward and block. And what it will do is your dash will actually cancel out the blocking animation and you'll get additional dashes faster than you usually could. So normally if I'm pressing dash, I'm not actually doing the next dash until this animation is done, right? But if I cancel that animation with block, because again you can cancel animations, or you can cancel dashes rather, then I'm going to get a much faster dash. Do you see how that worked? I kind of got two dashes really quickly together. And so the timing on this is different for every character. If you want to see a more in-depth explanation of it, again, go check out that Rain guide. This is an advanced technique. This is not something that you need to enjoy the game or even be good at the game. Just, you're going to see wave dashes mostly for certain characters at higher levels. Let me definitely put a disclaimer. Not every character's wave dash is any good, okay? So there are some characters like Shao Kahn, Rain, Kotal Kahn. They have excellent wave dashes that you can probably take advantage of. And with Rain, even, it gets him additional combos if you master his wave dash. But for a character like Noob Saibot, you don't even really need it. And for most characters, you really don't need it. So just kind of keep that in mind. It is an option in terms of movement. I just wanted to cover it because it is a movement option. So I picked Noob Saibot for this demonstration in this video because he has pretty good zoning on top of his other stuff. So what zoning is basically it's controlling the space so much that your opponent is not within range to hit you. So a lot of people think of zoning as just spamming projectiles. A projectile, of course, being a move that goes full screen and hits your opponent. But it's not just projectiles. So this little move can be a part of your zoning. This is his back 2. It's a normal, but it has really far range and knocks them really far back. So you're really controlling space when you use that move. A lot of people don't realize you can kind of be in this range and still be zoning the opponent. If your normals hit really far, or you have the ability to knock them back further, all kinds of stuff like that. So keep that in mind. Basically, what zoning means is you are controlling the zone around your character. And depending on what your character can do, that zone may be bigger or smaller. Like if you're Cetrion, that zone is kind of the whole screen. But if you're someone like even Noob Saibot, it can be more like this range, just kind of mid-screen. But I'm not gonna let, if I'm zoning and I'm dedicated to it, my job is to not let Sub-Zero get any closer to me than like this, right? So I can do that in a number of ways. Of course, you know, I have this move, I have the projectiles, all that kind of stuff. But I also have my long hitting normals, and so stuff like that. So keep that in mind. That's all zoning means. Zoning does not mean necessarily standing at full screen, spamming a projectile over and over again. Keep in mind that zoning just means controlling a zone that your character wants to control. Making your opponent play the way you want them to play, keeping them right where you want them, is basically what zoning means. And that's a lot of what Mortal Kombat 11 is spacing control. Putting your opponent where you want them and taking advantage of that. Of course, it's a push and pull. Nobody's gonna just stand there and let you play how you want to play, but that's why you have to enforce it. So get in training mode, figure out what your long range normals are, make sure they're safe, figure out if they're a high so they can be ducked. For instance, Baraka's forward 4 is a mid, so it can't even be ducked. All kinds of stuff like that. You want to experiment around with that kind of thing. And when you're in matches, you don't want to just be throwing things out. You want to be familiar with where your buttons and your moves actually hit your opponent. And so get in there and figure that out. So anyway, that's basically all there is to neutral in Mortal Kombat 11. Of course, there are always going to be characters that kind of ignore neutral with their teleports and everything else. If you encounter that kind of thing, make sure you follow my advice in my training mode guide. Take that character that's giving you trouble into training mode and practice specifically against the thing that's giving you the most trouble. All right, clear as mud? Cool. Well, we will be back with another one. Hope you have a good one. Be blessed.